Our next topic is going to be looking at InDesign. And last time we met, not last time, but last unit, we looked at some InDesign features and we started to refine a paragraph a little bit further from what we had before. And I think we were at a point where we can start using that sort of as a design or a template, a foundation, a style for the rest of our document. Now, before I go any further, I wanted to actually start inserting headers, because in most documents, you usually have a relationship between different levels or different types of text within the information. So for example, here in this page, we have what looks like a title, we have what looks like a header, a subhead, bullets, and then possibly paragraphs. So there's different types of typography or different functions of typography within this one page. And we need to discuss and describe, well, what would be a logical way to apply that? And then also, how would you use that in a systematic way if it repeats itself over and over again within a document? So what tools would you use? So we're going to take a look at that here in a second. So I'm going to launch InDesign, open up the file that we've been working on, and then I'll start sort of describing what's going on with that document. So this is the paragraph that I designed. As a reminder, I'm looking at this in basically a preview mode. So if I look at my toolbar over here, I'm hovering over the bottom of the toolbar. That's the mode where it kind of removes the guides and any visual aids that help you construct the document. So I'm going to go back to normal view. Remember, the hotkey for that is basically hitting W. So hit W, whoops. You want to make sure you're not in the document when you hit W. So I'm going to hit W, so you can see I'm toggling back and forth between the two. So this is the paragraph that I constructed last time. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a header to this. Header 1. And I'll weave a couple of headers throughout this document. As you can see, I'm all thumbs when I type and I'm hitting all sorts of extra keys. Header 3. Okay. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see sort of what's going on here. You've got a header here, you have a header here, you have a header here. All right, now, one of the things that you want with a header is usually it describes a new category of information. So we're introducing a new topic, and we want to emphasize where that new category lies. It also serves the function of establishing a new location within the document. So like, let's say I've read 3 pages within a corporate annual, and on that 3rd page, there's a couple of different headers. I complete or enter the first header, start reading some of that information. I close the document, walk away. When I come back, I open it again. It's easier for me to remember that I'm in that section within that header. It's a nice way to establish a point of entry within a document somewhere, throughout the document if you decide to stop reading it. Or if you look away from it, you look back into the document, you can find your way through the information more easily. If it was just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, and there weren't any headers to sort of break it up, it would be more difficult to find your way through it, okay? The header, generally speaking, I had an art director that used to say, make a header, and that sounds absurd, but his point was to make it emphasize, make it stand out. And so you basically want a lot of contrast. Before I start altering this, can any of you give me some suggestions as to what variables I can use in the text to make this stand out and have contrast? Size and boldness, okay, really good, yes. So I'm gonna make it bigger. And generally speaking, as the art director said, you wanna make a header, but what do you guys think? Do you think 11 points versus 10 is enough contrast? Not even close. At a glance, no way. So what we wanna do is make a header. So you'll notice I'm gonna go to 16, right? So now does it look emphasized? Hopefully it starts to look clear. It looks like it's a call to this new information, a title to this new information. So I'm going to select that. Somebody said make it bold, right? So let's make it bold. Right, so there it is. Now it's bold. Anything else? I'm not going to go into alignment yet. I'll come back to that, but I know that it was brought up. So I'm not going to center it, just color. Good. All right, so I'm going to change the color of it. These are just the colors that I have in here by default. I know they're not beautiful. I'm going to go with red. Okay, so I'm just going to make it red just because it's there. I don't have to select a new color, right? And then let's make it an italic. Let's see, does this have a, oh, there is bold italic. What about all caps? The software actually has a feature up here in the toolbar where it changes how the character is drawn. So this first one right here would force all capitals. Okay, this one right here is referred to as small caps. So it leaves them all in capitals, but the first letter is a correct size for a capital. The letters that follow the word are the scale of a lowercase, but they're drawn in a capital-like quality. This right here, this is referred to as strike through. That's a strike through, so that's another style you could add, but that's not going to work for our header. That's more for like saying this information is no longer valid, right? So turn that off. So there's underline. You know, we could apply that, but as I mentioned before, it kind of looks more like a link. You know, the little trademark symbol? So this right here is called superscript. Okay, so that there's an actual key for trademark. There's actual stroke for it or a glyph for it. But if for whatever reason you needed something that acts in that or behaves in that way, where it's this little tiny indicator. In some cases, you'll see it in stories where it's a little indicator for maybe a footer. That's called a superscript. Now, the opposite of that is called a subscript, and that will put the character at the bottom, below the baseline. So this puts it in the area where the ascender would lie, and then this one would drive it below where the descender would lie. If you forgot what those things are, an ascender is this. It's an ascender, and a descender is this. If you checked out my typography videos, I had a conversation about what those attributes are.